You know, sometimes when you severely judge a game wrong. I made a video on Myth of Empires a few weeks ago, and my was it received well. Myth of Empires is an upcoming MMO developed by Angela Studios, and of course there were doubts in my mind. A Chinese-made MMO that the trailer showed many bits of copying and sound packs that were used in the Mount and Blade games. It just seemed like it was a straight copy from the trailer that they shown. But looking into it more and going on their Discord, delving deep into some of the new gameplay that's been shown, am I starting to get excited for this game. Myth of Empires is shaping up to be an actual true Mount and Blade style MMO.
Waiting for someone to save. I wanna tell you something new. You try, contemplate for a while.
Now, as I mentioned, their Discord is full of this stuff. These guys have been posting day after day new gameplay, new footage, new screenshots, even questions and answers and information that I'll be going onto in the second half of this video. It is mind-blowing the amount of content we have been shown, and that's why my confidence in this game has shot up. We've seen so much gameplay now that it just excites me to no end what we could be getting. But let's dive straight into it. First of all, we see some of the taming and the riding horses. Myth of Empires being an open world, you'll be going into battle with other clans and other rival armies. However, in your downtime, you're going to have to build up, building villages, recruiting NPCs and other players to come and join you, farming, smithing, and of course, taming animals in order to not just survive, but thrive. And horses are going to be a big part of it, taming them to go into battle on horseback, giving you that speed and agility advantage. Here we can see in the gameplay the methods that you have to go through to tame these wild horses, using some of the crops that you've either bought off other players or grown yourself to then go and find a good stallion that will cater to your needs. Of course, there are dangers within nature as well though, being chased by wolves and eventually being killed. Now, I just want to mention, you'll see some text on the bottom of some of the gameplay. The guys that have been making this gameplay and putting it on their Discord like to be a bit memey. It's kind of funny at some points, but it might get annoying if there's a lot of text down there, so that's just a heads up at what that is. You'll also have the option to go hunting beasts and leveling up each weaponry. At first, it's going to be tricky. You're not going to have the skills in order to get those kill shots with a bow, especially on a fast animal like a deer or stag, but the more you train, the more you level up, the easier it's going to be. And can I just add, this game looks actually beautiful. You can't get the full picture on this video since it's more grainy footage that we've been shown from gameplay. However, from the screenshots, it looks incredibly detailed. But out of all the videos and gameplay clips that we've been shown from their Discord, the best one, and the one that I think most of you are going to be more interested in, is the army training and the lessons in leadership clips. As I'll get onto later, in this open world you're going to come across other settlements other than your own, where they're just small camps, villages, towns, or even massively walled cities that you may eventually have to siege. These won't just be player-driven colonies though. These can also be AI and NPC cities that I'll get onto later within this video. But at some point, you're going to have to take them out. You need to own this territory for yourself. Of course, you can bring your friends and your other players that you're within the game and build up an army that way. Or maybe if you need more troops, if you need some cannon fodder, or if you want to train up some real soldiers to build up an army bigger than anyone has seen before, you need to include some NPCs. Not only can you fight alongside real people, but also you can go into NPC camps and train them. You can force them to join you if you capture them and beat them up, but you can be more diplomatic if that's more your thing, training them up with certain weapons to make them into true fighters. And it's not limited. As we'll get onto later, the NPCs have exactly the same way of leveling up as the players themselves. So if you want them to be an archer, if you want them to be a spearman or a cavalryman, you can go that way. It just depends how you train each NPC fighter. But of course, you can take these armies using Mount and Blade style orders, holding the lines, charging, making shield walls, firing in volley or fire at will. That gives you the option to control these NPCs as you would in a game like Mount and Blade, and I think this is what really makes it a true Bannerlord MMO style game. We get a little bit of a further look at some of the melee combat that you'll be using throughout the game, using different weapons to get the edge on your enemy or opponent. Also a smaller look in some of the mining camps where you'll be able to mine resources, but you don't have to do that as a player. As I said, you can recruit NPCs to become warriors, but also to become serfs. They can go mining for you, they can smith weapons for you, they can go farming for you. These are all going to be factors that you're going to have to discuss with your teammates to where you want to place the NPCs that you've recruited. side. But that's most of the gameplay that we have seen and that has been released on the Discord. But let's go into the questions and answers that the developers released to see what else we can take and what we can expect when we can finally play this game. Of course, the first thing is this a seamless open world? We've been told that Myth of Empires is an open world game, but you can have different types. You can have a game like Atlas, where it's a one massive world but split into different servers that you seamlessly move across, or it's just one big server with hundreds if not thousands of people on it, like Life is Feudal MMO. But this game is doing it a little bit differently. It will be split into separate servers, and the early access version at the moment will have about 100 players on each server. However, there are plans to upgrade that in the future. But the game is going to have these different servers, but they're going to be different spots of the map. In other words, each region of the map is its own server. So you might be getting one clan that has its own server and they'll call it their territory. This is where they build their base, get their resources, but if they want to expand, if they want to take over other clans' land, if they want resources that they have, they're going to have to go and head to the other region, or in this case, server. We don't know quite yet how seamlessly it's going to be, but I think this is a really cool way of doing it. At the beginning, you could have multiple tribes on one server or region, but as they grow, they can fight or gain alliances, maybe even merging, to the point where massive clans can rule a server for themselves and they can defend it or attack other servers. But it'll be all within this persistent world that has been made in Myth of Empires. There will be no classes. It's a completely skill-based system where you level up dynamically throughout your playing. There'll be a completely free tech tree where you can choose the direction you want to take, whether you're a more economical person, a leader, or a warrior on the battlefield. And of course, there will be an in-depth clan and alliance system. This will help you communicate with fellow clans or even make enemies, having leaderships and ranks going up through. But of course, this doesn't just include players. If PvP isn't all your thing, there are plenty of PvE elements within the game as well. There'll be beasts for you to face. They'll be difficult to take down but yield high rewards. Also, as I mentioned multiple times, NPCs. Not only will you have player-led factions that can recruit other players or other NPCs into their alliances, but there are also 5 large NPC factions that will have claimed resource points around the world. So you're going to have to get an army, grow a clan big enough to defeat them in order to gain the resources that these NPC clans are defending. But be careful, because once an NPC faction is angry enough with you, they can also start to attack and raid your villages and faction in your area of the server. What's more, there are going to be treasures and caves to explore throughout the world with elite bosses inside that you can even make them submit to you and become one of your followers to gain some special troops in your army. Now, we have been told a lot about this NPC recruiting and growing your faction in this way. We've seen some gameplay, but there's still so little detail about the actual specifics of it. I'm thinking it's perhaps going to be in a way like Conan Exiles does it, yet your NPCs can be leveled up in exactly the same way the player can, having their own skill trees, and you can decide which direction they take. If you want a warrior, a farmer, a smith, or a guard, this is all down to you, and all the decisions you're going to have to make when recruiting NPCs throughout the world. And I think this is a brilliant way of doing it. See, the problem with MMOs is players. It's called massively multiplayer online for a reason, because that's the way it was built. However, if a game launches and it doesn't have the press that it needs, it doesn't get these hundreds if not thousands of players that a game like Myth of Empire requires to be successful. So adding in NPCs that can do the boring work like farming or mining, cutting down trees or crafting things, even having NPCs that can fill out the armies, will create a much bigger scale, and it will feel much more immersive to the players that are actually there. Even if you have a clan that doesn't have 100 people on it, but even just has 10 people on it, each person commanding their own units and troops, it will feel so large scale, and I think this is the way to do it. It truly is taking a lot of inspiration from games like Conquerors Blade, Tiger Knight Empire War, and of course Mountain Blade, and the developers are really showing that they're putting some real work and passion into it. I know there's skepticism all the time, and I'm extremely skeptical about this game, but every bit of gameplay, every bit of information that we see about it makes me feel more and more comfortable with what's going on within the Myth of Empires development, and it means that I just really want to cover this game more and more. So please leave your comments down below if you want to see more about Myth of Empires. I just want to make sure you know I have no affiliation with the company or anyone to do with this game. I just love covering games that look cool on this channel, and I know a lot of you guys appreciate it because there's games that you might not have heard about if I didn't make a video on it, and it makes for a fun bit of content that I love to make. So it works both ways. However, I will be keeping you guys updated on this game, and if things go south, I will also be making videos on that. But without further ado, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, leave a dislike if you didn't. But until then, I will see you in the next one.
Waiting for someone to save. I wanna tell you something new.